thrilled to have Kevin here, my Cape Natick neighbor, and I've been just seeing on Facebook and in his gallery his amazing photographs, drawings, paintings. He's just always thinking, always asking, and very perceptive, and so I'm really thrilled to have his work here. In case you don't know, it's all the way around. There are 5 pieces in the Wheeler room off the entry. There are, I think, 7 pieces in the lower level downstairs. There are pieces in the study rooms here. So there's treasure everywhere. So thank you all for coming. And I'm going to let Kevin tell us a little about his work.
Again, thank you everybody for coming. This is really, really great. And I want to thank Janice for inviting me to have the show and for her help in putting it together. And Anastasia Martens for lending her keen eye and helping put everything out. Had a really great time doing that. And to Sandra, my wife, who helped with getting all the work together and the installation. And she encourages me in my life and in my dreams. And thanks also to the Art Committee and the York Public Library. The staff here has been just really great. Whenever I've come over, they're so friendly. It's been really good. I created this slideshow because I couldn't put all my drawings in the show. And drawing is really an important part of what I do. So I thought you could maybe look at the drawings as I was talking or whatever, just to get an idea of how they relate. And there's also photographs of how it kind of like all works together. I don't spend much time talking about art. Mostly I just paint and draw and grab my camera when I go out for a walk. But as my art school friends will attest, and there's many of them here tonight, which is really nice, we had plenty of talk about art in art school. Artists, art history, critics' critiques, instructors' motives, fellow students, it all consumed us. One of my favorite quotes discovered back then, and still is a quote from Kenneth Clark, the art historian. He said, "Modern art is a vast and expensive joke." My roommates and I loved how this contradicted the serious assumptions of art, which was espoused by our instructors. So even before the ties of academia had been cut, I had no problem dispelling the theories and dogmas that were imposed upon me. So I gotta keep flipping pages here. Through it all, I felt that art is a celebration of the individual. Each artist creates according to his own inspiration and necessities. For me, the most significant aspect of being a painter is that I have an opportunity to express my uniqueness. We don't come into this world with a manual listing for uniquenesses. As humans, we carry many similarities, physically and behaviorally. As children, we mostly try to hide our differences and are terrified and not being like everyone else. Successfully expressing my being on a two-dimensional surface with color can be complicated. And on the other hand, it can be so simple. And what does success mean anyways? Ego, insecurity, and self-doubt all coalesce with confidence, audacity, and a desire to portray myself in the truest form. And through this practice, I have arrived exactly here at the York Public Library. This is the first time my paintings have been seen in a public venue, for which I am excited and grateful. The loftiest idea I have is that I might create something that others recognize as valid to them, and with all humbleness, that my efforts may benefit their lives in a good way. But I am at the mercy of the powers of the universe and my imagination. The process of painting becomes melded with my spirituality. It occasionally becomes entirely vital to my life, and from it, I am left with a deeper understanding of what it means to be alive. Whether pretty or ugly, and whether others desire it or discard it, I am making an honest attempt at being me. The process of painting, for me, means cultivating an open mind, clearing thoughts away, and being at one with a palette full of paint. This process is a practice like meditation. I strive for mindfulness and the grace of irony while completely intrigued at the process and potential. I often begin a painting by embracing the unknown. I'm so compelled by making a new discovery that I will risk everything. The bigger the risk, the bigger the gain. But what am I trying to gain? As I stumble along through life, I so stumble along in paint, dreaming of the ultimate combination of form and color, reaching out with each loaded brush full of paint, as if finally this mark will do the trick. Confidence and insecurity alternate frequently as I search deeper into my being. I try to find a way into myself, and into the painting. I grasp at any hint. Relinquishing thoughts, scolding myself for being rational, scraping off something that would otherwise be just right, and finally, imagining the painting an extension of my existence, and painting out everything that is not real to me. My spiritual appetite has always been significant. I became a lay student of theosophy and developed a strong attraction to Buddhism. Naively, at first, I tried to shake away my ego. I imagined living in a remote cell as a hermit or in a monastery somewhere in Tibet. There, I would surely cut to the chase and become enlightened. Well, that hasn't happened.
How do you know?
Charlie told me. I read books of timeless wisdom such as the I Ching and the Tao Te Ching, which I still read. In chapter 2, line 6 of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu says, "Therefore, the sage keeps to the deed that consists of taking no action, and practices the teaching that uses no words." I love Lao Tzu. He is such a prankster, yet he gives us insights to the way. He tells us if we search for enlightenment, we will never find it. But if we don't search, it is ours. I aspired to adopt this philosophy into life and painting. The Tao is packed with ironies. Here's another great one, again by Lao Tzu. "Rid yourself of desires in order to observe their secrets, but always allow yourself to have desires in order to observe their manifestations." I interpret this all to mean that if I could be in harmony with myself, I would also be with the universe. I would have no causal effect that exists in divine ubiquity. Nothing positive, nothing negative, perhaps perfection or enlightenment. I practiced this in the studio, and I still do. I'm inspired by nature, actually awed by nature. Have you ever tried looking at the world as a flat plane? Have you ever gone into the woods and forgot that you are looking at objects, at trees, rocks, foliage, branches, moss, and just look at the light? Let your mind go. Everything will flatten out into a two-dimensional plane. Forget about the objects. Just let go. Everything becomes colors. It is awesome. And when you use this method of perception in painting, everything becomes color relationships. Everything is dependent on everything else. You need to remember to switch your brain back when you begin walking, as this two-dimensional vision will provide no depth perception. This way of looking at things is amazing. Every place is a great masterpiece just waiting to be painted. Large and ambitious paintings, nature and observation is so inspiring. And it was pretty much the foundation of painting until Jackson Pollock famously said, "I am nature." Until he said this, people mostly painted external stimuli. Pollock came along and said, "I'm changing all of that," and he did. In the 20th century, painting changed forever. I love this. A huge door opened for the self and its relevance. At the same time, a new technique was born for applying paint. Now you can just throw paint. Some of my paintings are inspired by looking inside, others looking outside. I truly love the landscape, others by emotional impulses such as tragedy. One of the paintings in the show called Friends Forever was a meditation on gratitude for the many friends I have. It just kind of created itself as I watched. I'm so grateful for the many friendships that I still have from art school. My friends and I share an experience and can relate to each other in a very unique way. And through this group, which has grown to include many others, I am continuously inspired and encouraged. Almost done.
It's great, Kevin, keep it up.
Creativity led by the imagination is available to all of us. We each have different approaches and different results, and I believe that it is what makes art at any level so compelling. So again, thank you for coming, and thanks for all the really great support. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Thanks, yeah.
If you have any,
We'll keep quiet.
yeah, I was gonna say, if you have any answers, I'll listen. Yes, Catherine?
That was an awesome talk.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Especially for creative people in general. But as I walked around, I wondered, I have a question. I see things in your paintings the way I see things in clouds, you know. I've seen faces in a couple of them, a couple of eyes, sort of staring out a group of people. And I'm wondering do those kinds of images enter in when you're painting, or do you just let whatever, what's going through your mind is what I'd like to know when you're painting.
Yeah, a painter friend said once, when you finish with a painting, always look for Snoopy, and if you see Snoopy, then the painting is about Snoopy. So I try to avert eyes and Snoopies and all that kind of stuff, and I don't really think that way, but I think that people do need some kind of a narrative to help to give them a sense of reality or something. So I'm wondering how much, that I feel like that I'm putting into that. I feel like I would use anything as a method to achieve a painting, but
Do you like start with an image in your mind, or is your mind blank, or is it always different?
yeah, I think a lot of times it's really different. Like sometimes I'll just start painting something because of an emotional evocation where I just have to paint something and I know what it is and I know how many pieces of paint that are going to be a certain color. And other times the paint just starts flowing. And what I do is I continuously challenge the surface, and so like when I think something's pretty good but it's not saying what I want it to say, I'll provoke it by putting a piece of green paint here, and I try to minimalize the mark. Like this painting is probably a good example of that. And this painting was actually it was started by a friend of mine, Miles Danaher, and my son Nathaniel worked in it a little bit to kind of get the whole thing started. And then I didn't know what all of that meant, so I sat with it for a long time and I just kept looking at it, and I need to have this dialogue going, and as that dialogue starts to move, then I start to respond to that, and then at a certain point, I look at the painting, and I go, wow, I can't paint on this anymore, this is saying something to me, and then I put it away, and then I come back the next day, and if it's still saying something to me, I leave it alone, and then it kind of goes into the house, and then they get piled up there. and then they've been brought over here, so having them come over here is great. We have a more empty living room right now.
Thank you.
Hi, Frank.
Kevin, when did you start?
Start painting?
Painting, drawing, the whole thing? When did you know you were an artist?
I wanted to be a writer. My mother said, you'll have to work at the shipyard like your father. And then I wanted to be a musician, and my mother said, we don't have enough room for a piano. and then in art class, I always did really well, and then one day the art teacher said, okay, everybody color in lines, and I thought, I'm just going to color outside lines. And so everybody else had colored inside lines. She said, look at this. And she held up my coloring book, and I was like, wow, I just had a great success here. So I was really inspired by that, and I was like, wow, I don't have to paint inside the lines, I can do whatever I want. And that was at a really early age. So I got that taste of being kind of like a rebel back then. Yes, Beth?
I'm curious as to how you know when to stop or want a painting.
I don't think you really do, because even when I have a really good painting, what I think is a really good painting, like this one right here that belongs to my son, I could work on that right now. And But then but what the painting is right now, it's really, it's exciting to me. And it's like, wow, how did I do that? I don't know. But then I'm like, wow, if I had some paint right now, I could put a piece right over here and just see how the whole rest of it responds to it. So I think that I feel like the better the painting sometimes, the more that you could keep working on it. So I don't know. That's a really good question. You're asking the wrong person. Yes, Sonny?
What time of day do you feel that you're doing most of your work? I mean, are you a morning person that paints in the morning, or in the evening, or just whenever you're inspired?
I like to think about painting a lot, and a lot of times I'll have dreams about paintings. And when I wake up, I'll go, wow, that was a really lucid, colorful dream of a certain rectangle. And then I'll go into my studio and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'll try to create that. So sometimes that happens. But other times I like to, in my waking hours, I like to be flushing all this stuff through my mind and thinking about where I left off the day before. And I like to go to sleep thinking about my paintings also. So I think there's that, like, I like that subliminal process, or, you know, where it's kind of like I'm in a sleep state and I think about them. There's a person's paintings that I admire immensely, Agnes Martin, and she would completely she would lay in bed until 3 or 4 in the afternoon and do the painting completely in her mind before she would approach the painting. So I think that there's something that goes into the paintings before you actually start to work on them. With that said, I like the midday light, but you know, the light is the best. The other thing is, like, when you're working on a painting, no matter what time it is or what kind of lights you're using, I use oil paint, and there's always a sheen that's like inconsistent. So even as I'm moving toward the painting, the reflections change and the colors change and the vividness changes, and it's like I can't control all of that. So there's really no like perfect optimal time to work on a painting. So I guess it's whenever you feel inspired. Yes, Tracy again.
Do you move them around? Do you like turn them upside down?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well. Bring them inside, bring them
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and then I asked Miles what he on this one. I said, "What do you think?" And he says he can give me credit, and I said, "Well." He's getting credit now. So.
Do you often collaborate?
Oh yeah, so we're doing. I do have a gallery in Canada, and we're having a show. The opening is June 20th. June 28th, and it's a collaboration. So I asked Brooke Nixon and I. Brooke couldn't come tonight. She was planning on coming. She's a great friend, and we asked 5 artists to collaborate with us. And what we did was I have 2 paintings, say, for my collaborator, and they're 12 by 24 inches, and we split it in half, so we each have a rectangle, and I painted half, and then I send it off to the other collaborator, and they paint the other half. And between each collaborator, we have 2, so I have 5 people, and she has 5 people. So there's going to be about 20 paintings in the show, and it's collaboration. And the collaboration has been really great because, you know, you get this thing in the mail, you get a painting in the mail, and it's half done with somebody's artwork on the other side, and it's sacred. And then you're going, oh my God, what do I do with the other side? And I've really enjoyed that process. So I think I kind of like started with collaboration on this one. This isn't really a collaboration. I just had Miles kind of like fill in some colors. And then I painted over it as much as I could. But those 2 drips up there are Miles, and Nathaniel can point out to you where his marks are. So I've retained some of that. But this other collaboration, it's been really exciting to see. And people kind of like from all over the country have collaborated with us, so it's going to be fun. And there's a card here someplace.
I got some right.
Yeah, Sarah's got some cards that give all the information about that show. This lady over here.
I was just contemplating one of the nice things that you said, that you were honest about who you are, being honest with me. And I think, you know, I'm an artist that does very precise work, pen and ink renderings, architectural drawings, that's very methodical about perspective and so forth, but there's a wonderful beauty about having the freedom to just let your soul sing with the colors, and to be so much attuned to nature and the colors and the line and the rhythm and the energy and nature and what you're doing with that. There's a wonderful freedom to that. And when said that you like music. Well, there's music in all of us. There's a symphony of the soul that you just can't explain. And
Yeah.
I think that happens when you're painting with colors and so forth. And I used to teach interior design and decorating with colors, taking the energy of a two-dimensional painting to a three-dimensional space. And I loved doing that because it was the passion of the rhythm and the sense of place and the color and the energy, and there's so much in that. So I applaud you for having the really energy of being who you are and being attuned to the colors and nature. And that's a beautiful music that can't be put in words.
Thank you. And I feel like searching for who that I am. I don't think I've arrived there yet. You know, I feel like I get hints. Painting gives me these hints, or they give me, like after I paint, and sometimes I've had a really successful time, I just feel, and I feel like I've been lifted up somehow. You know, it's like, wow, I just did this thing. That, you know, it's like a reflection of some aspect of myself, and that's pretty miraculous. I'm like, how does that happen? How does that go? And then there's a few paintings in here when I look at them now, they're just like echoes of my own existence, and I'm kind of mystified by that. And I'm really surprised that I actually still have a connection to them too. When we put the show up here, I didn't know what to expect, but when I see certain paintings that I did, I'm like, well, that's me. You know, I just know it.
I just want to say one more thing. Years ago, I can't remember the famous artist who said it. There were a lot of quotes from famous artists back in 16, 15, 18, 17, and so forth. I can't remember. Just Google it and I'll find it in a second, you know. But it says, I dreamed I was painting and I painted my dream. And that is so powerful to hold that within you, no matter what type of artwork you're doing.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing music or whether you're working with colors and two-dimensional, three-dimensional, I think that is so powerful to just hold that in your heart and just let it go.
Yeah. There's some great quotes, and a great quote that I love. Renoir said, you know, you make the most perfect arrangement of flowers that you can, and then when you're ready to paint, you turn it around and paint the backside.
Yep.
Yes, Scott Flanders.
Kevin Freeman, what a wonderful presentation. And I'm amazed at all the beautiful artwork. And I was going to ask you about your drawings, and I have been enjoying this this digital presentation over here. And while I'm watching it, and I'm thinking back in all the years of our relationship and how you've had this big impact on my life, I'm like, I see music in your painting, and I identify your visual art with your musical art. Can you just talk about how you move between the worlds, or how they are one world, or how they are not, or just talk about how, you know, Let the Train Blow the Whistle, or some other Johnny Cash song.
Yeah, I really don't try to. A lot of paintings, like the one that you can see in that other room right there, it's like, I kind of like put a bunch of stuff there, and then I respond to it, and I try to paint out what isn't real. And that's kind of like where I'm at right now. But a lot of the work that I'm doing right now is all really dark work, and I'm like, I feel like it's kind of more emotional, like Schoenberg or somebody, you know. It's like, I feel like at the times, like after, it's really dark. So what I do is I feel like I'm a conduit of some sort, and then I just kind of let go, and so that transmission of whatever, it just comes out. But I really do try to stay away from channeling anything.
So there's no paintings in D minor?
Yeah, there are.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, Kandinsky is really big on like making a connection between music and painting, and I feel that too. But I don't think about it consciously, and I don't think colors don't equate to musical notes to me or anything like that. Yeah. Yes, Kurt.
I speak to that. You have a couple paintings back on the wall there that when I saw them, I instantly said, I can see Scott's personality. I can see him, Kevin, sorry.
Yeah.
Whatever your name is. I can see you on the back of the couch, sitting back on the couch, like playing your muted tones
Yeah,
on the guitar,
yeah,
but all that had a lot of interest.
yeah.
And I could see it that was my first impression on the paintings.
Yeah.
So I think it is what you said, it's more intrinsic than purposeful connection. I mean, like trying to draw a connection, I think it just,
Is.
because your purpose is to be your honest self. Yeah. That's what you stated, so I think you just, when you bring that up, it has all aspects of you at the moment.
Yeah, it does, it definitely does. And it's to a point of where I really can't do anything more about this situation. But like in a year, you know, like when I was pulling paintings out to look at the show, I'm like, whoa, I can work on this one, I can work on this one. You know, yeah. Yeah. Mike?
A lot of your paintings and your drawings you post online, and we all comment on them, the people that know you. How much does that affect you, do you think?
The comments?
Yeah.
I think it's a really great affirmation, and it gives me courage to move on, because I always try to push myself to the next step. So I think that if I didn't have that encouragement through all the great comments that I get, I really don't know where I would be, but I feel like that is it's really significant to have such a great community of people that are kind of like enabling me, you know? So I really value that. And it's a big part. Like a lot of times when I'm drawing, I will take a picture because I know that it looks different on Facebook than it does on the table. And then I'll look at it. It's kind of weird because we've never had this opportunity before, but I'll look at what I did on my iPhone rather than on the table, and then I'll make decisions about what to do next, you know? So, and even the images here look far different than they do on the sketchbook. You know, these sketchbooks are like 14 by 17 inches. And they look different. The papers on the table, the paper's all the same temperature. They're much warmer than this, and the ink is darker. And so it all gets kind of like homogenized into this one thing that really isn't representative of the particulars. Yes, Vicki?
I was wondering, some of the paintings I had a sense of humor in them. Or like the trickster and a couple of them, like, you know, one kind of landed up there and happened.
Wow.
I want to say which one.
I try to avoid humor at all costs. But that's really great. You'll be showing.
I was wondering, I was like, is that humor?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Al?
I find you as one of the most encouraging people for musicians and everyone else that I've known.
Oh, thank you.
So
It's very nice.
keep it up.
Thank you. Nice.
There's one painting of yours that I've always wondered about and never asked about, and I think it's the one that's hanging facing the doors over there, the one that I assume is a self-portrait. Can you talk a little bit about that one? Or about the gesture is really specific.
Yeah, it's a figure. It's a male figure like this. That was one that was inspired by a dream. I had this dream, and it was just like poignant. It was like I woke up one morning and there's this image of this figure flying across the sky over his little village, and he had red streams coming out of the back of his head. And I was like, wow, what's that about? I don't know, but I'm going to go and just paint it. And so I painted a multitude of those, probably like, well, I don't know, 20 of those. And then I drew it continuously for a long time, just to try to understand what it meant, what it was evoking, and what it meant to me. And I do think it is sort of a self-portrait. And that's pretty much it. But I'll tell you, when I was first really getting back into painting a lot, which was like maybe 5 years ago, I started just throwing paint around, and all of a sudden, I just saw Nathaniel, my son. This is my son, Nathaniel. And he was in the center of this painting, and I wasn't trying to paint him or anything. And he was like an infant, and he was in this cave. And so I was just kind of like, you know, doing this abstract thing, and all of a sudden I just had this I just saw this, it was like vision, and I kept it, I was like, wow, that was really powerful. I don't know how that happened or where it came from. And nobody would recognize the human features in this sort of cave aspect. But it was inspiring because it was like, wow, that really, so, you know, maybe about like, do I paint eyes and people or, you know, clouds and stuff. Maybe I do some more than I don't really know. Ian.
Hey Kevin, I've always admired your use of color, and because you look at the painting like behind you, and there's so many colors, but they all work well together. And then, you know, with your black and white photos, your contrast with like the grays and the different tones. I just always, you have one, I think it's in your sketch pad or your pad, but it's like black and white, and then you have like red, like you have some red blotches. It almost reminds me of like a garden of roses.
Yeah.
Somebody had said something like they see things in your paintings, and every time you post on Facebook, I'm like, I like seeing something in the clouds. I'm like, I see like a goat's head, or I see like, you know, just like something, some image like behind you. I see a lighthouse in the middle of that, and then on your top.
Yeah.
You know, it's just those. I just wanted to say those few things.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that some people do post on Facebook that they were doing better artwork than I do when they were 6 years old. One lady said that when she worked for the U.S. government trying to make pens work, they would get boxes of pens. And she said she was doing a lot better stuff, just scribbling out the ink. So people do that. But I'd like to say that my drawings correlate with my paintings in that when I get to a certain level in either painting, drawing, or with my photos, I feel like I can build on the craft, and I try to avoid that. I don't like relying on a prescribed way to do things. So like if I did a bunch of paintings like this or that, then eventually I get really good at that, and then I create this method to do it and approach painting. I like to be more creative, so I turn to drawings immediately, and then if I get really good with pen with like ink, what I'll do is I'll switch to charcoal because I feel like I'm too methodical. So I always want to be breaking away from what I already know about art and making something new. So that's why that like when you work on a painting like this, or I'll be working on several paintings at the same time, it's just like at some point you're just like pushing paint around. But then when you go and open up your sketchbooks, it's so refreshing because you have this whole new vocabulary that you can just delve right into, and that's always that's inspiring to me. Anastasia.
I like seeing your work on the Facebook. You know, it's a glimpse into your life, you know, without going into the studio, or, you know, we don't get out and get into studios all the time, so it's really fun to see that. And I have to say, I mean, you seem really prolific. You're like wildly painting away. You've got one painting popping up after another, and I think of you just doing one, doing next, doing next, doing next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what are you doing that?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes in the, you know, but the other thing is that I don't like to do too many paintings because I don't, and the other thing, I really don't like the idea of like just creating a lot of visual pollution. It's like, so sometimes when I think I don't really need to go into the studio, I'll just go do something else for that amount of time that I allocated to the studio. So I think that for me there is the danger of just doing too much. But a lot of times when I'm drawing, it's just like, these drawings might take, you know, a few minutes, and then I'll let them dry and I'll come back and work on them a little bit, so I'll have like 7 or 8 of them, or maybe 10 of them going on a big table at once. So you can really accumulate a lot of drawings and a lot of sketchbooks.
The first one is always hard. After that, they just come.
They do.
Inertia goes both ways.
Yeah. Any more?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're enlightened.
Before enlightenment,
yeah.